Okay, here we are, part 2, video 14, and I have listed here on the board, I'm not sure you can see it. Let me get my specs on. Yeah, I think you can. It turns out that these are the main focus of the foci. The main focuses. The main foci of the test are simplify, verify, solve, double and half angles, and then there's a question from the past. So we're going to practice the simplify first. So I'm going to probably just do one tonight, and we've got plenty of time tomorrow and Monday to get through examples of the rest. The double and half angle ones we've just done very recently, so we may not review those at all. And about a blast from the past can go anywhere, so we will look through our comp books, do a little flapping, and see if I can guide you where to best study on your past material. Maybe I can narrow it down a little bit. Alright, let's look at the first one, and the command is simplify. Alright, when we look at this, when you come to the test, some of the cards will be on the back wall, some of them. And the one set of cards that you need for this simplification are not going to be there, and that's the Pythagorean IDs. So let me remind you how to quickly come up with them on your own without too much who-struck. So let's get it back in center here a little more. All right. Here, I'm going to require you, so here's the tools I need for this one. We know sine squared of an angle plus cosine squared of an angle equals 1. Hopefully, that is committed to memory because of its simplicity and beauty. It's probably just stuck there. If not, you'll have to do some work to make it stick. That is the first of the Pythagorean IDs. So when I get my test, I would write that one down somewhere on it immediately and develop the other two. And the first one, in my mind, I'm dividing each of these terms by sine squared. And I'm going to erase this, so if you can't see it, just know that I divided this by sine squared, this and this. Sine divided by sine is 1, and cosine squared divided by sine squared is cosine over sine, being cotangent, that's one of our deathbeds, squared. And 1 over sine is, we know sine and cosecant are flips of each other. So 1 plus cotangent squared of an angle is cosecant squared of an angle. So then I'm going to go back to the original again, and in my mind, I'm going to divide by cosine. Oh, isn't that what I just did? No, I did sine. Cosine squared. And that creates this down here. Sine divided by cosine is tangent squared. And cosine divided by itself, 1, and 1 over cosine is the secant. So hopefully you will be able to repeat that, or you can just memorize them straight off. But if I can easily get these from that, why waste the memory? We only have so much, so I think this is a better way. You can see why. Let me fit this one on a little better. 1 plus cotangent squared is cosecant squared. There. You can see where I wanted these to do this one because this is a trig ID. You notice wherever you see a cosecant and it's squared and it's paired with either a cotangent squared or a 1, it should lead you to look at this line. This is a rearrangement of that. So for this to match this, I would move the 1 to the other side mentally, and it becomes cosecant squared minus 1, exactly like my problem, and I'm going to replace it with cotangent squared. So this becomes unchanged in the numerator, and now cosecant squared minus 1 is cotangent squared. All right, where do I go now to simplify this further? Well, one of the tricks in my trig travel case was to change everything to sine and cosine. So why don't we have a pause point, if you would pause the video and see what you get when you do that on this one and see how far it simplifies. Alright, did you take the cotangent and remember, deathbed wise, that cotangent is cosine over sine, and when it's squared it's just cosine squared over sine squared. There I go with my A's. A's. Alright, X. Alright, so now I have a cosine divided by cosine squared over sine squared. So this is in the denominator, so I can flip it and multiply it times the numerator. Perhaps it helps you to think of cosine squared as cosine squared over 1 in order to do that. So I have a fraction divided by fraction, flip the bottom, and when this comes up and multiplies by this, I get cosine squared x over 1 times sine squared x over cosine squared x. The cosines cancel. Did you get sine squared x? Alright, hopefully you did. So that's an example of simplify. Another kind that we will do on this section is verify. So let me show you one verify and we'll call it quits for tonight. And we'll be practicing a lot more. A la mañana. Alright, so let's verify. That means show that. On the test I think it says verify. That means the same thing. Show that tangent squared over sine secant equals tangent x. So show that's a little nicer to us because we know where we're supposed to end. So we just have to mess with this until it looks like that. So let's have a pause point and just see what your first instincts lead to and see how far you can get. So turn it off or pause it and just look at that one. See if you can make some substitutions and get over to tangent x. My first wave of thought said, well, I see tangent squared here. Maybe I could replace this with secant squared minus 1, but then I thought, well, I want a tangent in my answer, so why would I remove that? So I actually will leave that alone. So each one sort of has its own little twists and turns to it. So let's just look at the bottom here. Let's go, again, when all else fails, just change to sine and cosine. Now this I'm not going to change because I see the answer is tangent, but what about secant? Secant is a reciprocal of cosine, so I'm going to write 1 over cosine. So then on the bottom it becomes sine x over cosine x, which is a deathbed recognition that is tangent. So we have a tangent squared over a tangent, and one of these will cross out one of those and we get where we want it to be, tangent x. Alright. I hope I didn't embarrass you or insult you with that one, because it kind of fell in our laps a little too quickly. Hopefully it did for you as well. If not, it will on Tuesday. Alright, we will practice more tomorrow, so you have a good night, and over and out.